Treasury Department official Monica Crowley, along with Republican Congressman Devin Nunes. Monica, I want to go to you first. I mean, the Treasury Secretary is trying with a straight face to say that excessive spending by the federal government will push inflation down. I don't know how she comes up with that, but that's what she claims.
Well, Jason, the president has talked about these multi-trillion-dollar spending plans as costing zero. And now we have the Treasury Secretary saying, well, if we spend all these trillions of dollars, it will not add any inflationary pressures to the economy. Both of these things are just basically math for dummies, and they're now just gaslighting us with pure nonsense. Look, we have pumped in about $6 trillion into this economy since the pandemic hit. We had to do a lot of it last year because we were in the midst of an emergency related to the pandemic. The government shut down the economy wholesale across the country. So, of course, the government had to step in an emergency way. The problem now is that the Democrats are keeping up emergency level spending absent the emergency. And we know what that leads to. It leads down a very dark and unsustainable economic road that involves a lot of inflation. We're already seeing these incredible inflationary pressures on everything from your groceries to your gasoline. And if the Democrats get these multi-trillions of dollars in additional spending, the inflation that we're all suffering today will look like a walk in the park.
Yeah, Congressman, you and I served in the Congress together. I had a pleasure of serving with you. It really is stunning because the federal government will spend more than, if the Democrats got their way, under the bills that are proposed, more than 1 out of every $4 spent in this country would be spent by the federal government. It is stunning to be above 25% of GDP if the Democrats got their way.
It is, Jason. It's great to be on with you. And I would say you're probably lucky when you got out when you did, because we're passing all sorts of new records. And look, when I watched that recording that you played of Yellen, I mean, this really reminds me of the 1980s, mid-80s Soviet Union, when they had all of those decrepit leaders who were all in their 80s, who couldn't function, who couldn't walk, who you never seen in public. I mean, look, from Pelosi to Biden to Yellen, I mean, I don't even understand what she's talking about there. I mean, anybody who thinks that if you put more money into this economy, after all the money we've already put into the economy, that good things are going to happen. What they ought to be focusing on is stop these blue states like mine that continue to pay people not to work. If you want to get the supply chain problems figured out, you better stop paying people to stay home and do nothing. And this whole idea that they're going to spend another trillions and trillions of dollars, this is kind of embarrassing to have somebody like this as the Secretary of the Treasury, quite frankly.
Yeah, Monica, there are 5 million less workers in the workforce than there were previously. And that has an effect. That's why when you go to a restaurant or you go anywhere, they're having trouble just getting the labor in place. And that's a big part of why the ports are so full of containers. They don't have the labor to go get it and take it out and bring it to market.
Well, that's right. And, you know, when President Trump left office, he handed President Biden the fastest economic recovery from any crisis on record. And what we've seen over the last 10 months is this president and his administration squander those gains. And it's a direct result of their left-wing government policies, whether it's the worker shortage, which he has created with disincentives to go to work because the government is paying you so much to stay at home, or whether it's the supply chain crisis with this administration also created, and the inflationary pressures the same. So there is a direct consequence to these kinds of socialist and collectivist policies. And you know who's suffering the most, Jason? The poor, the working class, and the middle classes that are being squeezed.
Yeah, people that are on the fixed income. Congressman, I've only got a few seconds left. Last word.
Mm-hmm. I would just say that if President Trump were still president and we had this problem, he would be out at the ports of Los Angeles, not over in the UK talking about global warming with all of his buddies that wanted him to be president. We were going to get the United States on the right track with Biden, right? All these EU guys. Well, look, guess who's not there? Who's not there? Vladimir Putin's not going to be there, and Xi Jinping from China not going to be there. You know why? Because they're going to burn coal build nuclear power plants, locate natural gas around the world, pipe it into these places like the European Union, who are going to have to buy it. So they are cleaning our clock. So it's kind of like, well, while Rome burns, Biden is fiddling with his buddies in the UK right now.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Hasn't been to the ports, hasn't been down to the border, and these are where the problems are. Monica Crowley,
Right.
yes, and Congressman Nunes, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it.